Hello, everyone, and welcome to Agulhas Current Affairs, a marine science podcast set in southern Africa. With me as one of your hosts, Dr. Yanas Kisten of Geekoscopy,
And Dr. Nelson Miranda of Argonaut Science.
yes, and we just recorded an episode where we described, or at least I described, Nelson Miranda of Argonaut Science, and now it's Nelson Miranda of Argonaut Science's turn to describe Yanas of Geekoscopy.
No, I should add, you described me to a T.
Yeah.
And now it's my turn, and I'm ready to be embarrassed.
To be embarrassed. Like I said,
Because I guess the general assumption is that scientists know everything, and they certainly know what the other scientists are up to.
Yeah.
They know each other. They know exactly what they do. And sometimes I guess that's true.
Yeah, well, for me when it came to you, but like I said, I think your professional work is much more out there, whereas my I keep quiet to myself, I suppose. Like a lot of the work that I do is like by myself. That's why I think it's a lot quieter.
Let me try. Let me start from the top. So I know that you are a doctor, right?
Okay, I'm sorry with the basics.
And
yeah.
I believe. No. Hold on. I can add descriptions to this.
Okay.
I think you're a fishy person. So I think you did. I believe you've done your PhD on fish, right?
This is true.
And I believe that you know a thing or two about fish behavior, okay?
Okay.
But you also know about the ecology of fish in estuaries. I think specifically estuarine fish.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. You got my PhD done, yeah, for sure.
Okay. So I know your background a little bit,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So then, what do you do? Okay. So I think we need to split that into science work and into sort of what should I say, into business, because I do believe that you have entrepreneurial skills and you have skills relating to the audiovisual arts.
Okay. All right. That's close enough. You got to go around
There
it.
we go.
Okay.
That's the roundabout.
That's a broad.
Yeah, I went on purpose very
Very
broadly
vague.
because then it's most likely
Yeah.
to hit
yeah.
something there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can either do that or you just keep
So-
saying things until you hit the right thing. That's the two techniques. Yeah.
No. Okay. So hold on. On a typical day, okay, I see two typical types of days for you, right? On a typical day as a scientist, right, I see you spending half the day in an office and half the day in an aquarium, right? If you're not doing field work, of course, because that's another type of day. But let's just say a typical, most often day would not be spent in the field. I believe that, like other scientists, we spend most of our days in the
Yeah,
office,
yeah,
or
yeah.
if you have to deal with live, things, then you have some sort of aquarium
Yeah.
or some sort of
For
lab.
sure. That's the difference between like the field work that you do versus the field work that I do. Whereas you go out and like most of the times you're like counting things, you're like measuring things in the field. Most of it, and you do bring stuff back to the lab, but I don't think that's like the majority. Whereas the majority of my field work
Yeah.
is just going out and getting animals and then bringing them back to the lab, and then most of my work is done in the aquarium lab.
Yeah, that's right. And then this is what I think you do, because you were unfortunate enough to pick a subject where you have to take care of the things in the lab to
Yeah.
like a very high degree,
Including myself.
and they live for a long time, right?
Yeah.
They grow up, and you have to take care of that. You have to take care of them from babies until they're juveniles and even adults, perhaps, and that can take years, and that requires a lot of accurate sort of skills, which I believe you have.
Yeah.
And I also believe that obviously, so that's in the aquarium, which is the lab will be mostly an aquarium. That's what I see in my mind. and then in the office you would be spending most of the time um, handling the data that you've now collected in the lab, okay, like data processing most of the time, and then spending a smaller amount of time trying to make sense of it, and probably making plans for, oh my gosh, what must I do next? Must I go back into the field and collect another batch of fish, or must I continue with what I have and change the treatment? Is this still online with what I wanted to do with my research, the aim of my research? This is what I think you basically worrying a lot when you're in the in the in the office, and then worrying some more because you will arrive at the aquarium and being like, oh my gosh, the nitrogen levels are way off. I need to scrub, I need to clean, I need to change the water.
Yeah.
And you're on call basically, because you can't just have a holiday and
Mm,
come back
mm,
and hope that
mm,
everything is still
mm.
on track. This is like you're on call. Am
This
I?
is
Am
this is
I?
too real for me. Too real. Yeah.
Is this real?
It sounds like all
I'm
my
sorry
nightmares.
if I'm bringing up trauma.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. My apologies.
Yeah, no, for sure. It is a lot of that. Keeping animals, especially aquarium stuff, especially marine stuff, is not a simple task. It's not like keeping a cat or a dog or even like a pet hamster. It's like they're in a medium that's not air that we live in. They're in water, and the chemistry of their water changes as they are feeding, as they're living, as they're doing all types of things. So when you're an aquarist, it's keeping your water quality in check is the number one priority. And in order to do that, you have to first be able to monitor and then know what to do when things change. And then when fish get sick, you have to know the protocols. You usually just go and toss them in water with some copper and hope hope for the best. um, and yeah, so also you're fixing stuff all the time because
Wow.
there's moving parts, there's electrical stuff in the water, and those things we know do not often mix throughout history. And they have sometimes mixed in me, in that I got
Oh
electrically
yeah.
shocked a
I
few
actually
times.
recall.
Yeah.
I recall visiting you and being horrified, at your working conditions, and amazed that you are still functioning. And how are you still? How haven't you been shocked?
To death. Yeah.
So much to death.
Yeah.
And I know that you've had to, manage your own
Mm,
health and safety, environment,
yeah.
because it's, even though there are standards, if you make a mistake, you can still, so it's not only the environment of your subjects and the fish, it's
Yeah.
your own,
Yeah.
environment that you have to manage so that
Yeah.
you're also alive at the end of all of this.
Yeah. When I started off early, during my honors bachelor's degree, I've for that project I just scrounged a lot of existing things that were in storage for a long time. They weren't that well um designed, but also I was using them in a way they weren't intended for. I just took a bunch of things and put them together, and in that sort of case, because I didn't design it personally, it was a lot more dangerous. And also, yeah, in that lab, it's so old and wasn't meant for, I think, what it was originally meant for. That it was not that safe. But for my PhD, I had a lot more access to funding, and I was able to design my own stuff. So it was much safer for my PhD because I had more control over how everything ran. But yeah, don't do what I did for honors. So it was very dangerous. Um,
Yeah,
it-
I mean, different times
Yeah.
as well. I think the regulations weren't being enforced at that stage, but I think things have changed now, hopefully.
yeah.
But as they say, this is Africa, so
You gotta make a plan.
it's quite common that
Yeah.
you have to make a plan with less than up to standard facilities, and you have those skills, which is really impressive. That's always something that I always bring up this story when I'm talking, about you and Even to you, every time I'm reminding you
Reminding
of the
me
trauma.
what I already know.
I'm sorry about that.
So then, like, what kind of scientist I am?
Okay.
Because I think, like, if you start there, it's more easy. I think it's better to describe, or easier to describe. Like I said, you're a ecologist, right? Like mainly ecologist.
Yeah. So you would be an ichthyologist, right?
Okay.
Ichthyologist, generally speaking.
Okay.
But I'd say that you'd be a specialist in fish ecology. I'm going to say fish ecology.
Fish ecology. Interesting. Well, that's not. I don't think that's technically true. I think my highest field of expertise is a marine ecophysiologist, a marine animal ecophysiologist, and I think ichthyology might be under that, maybe a level. But the thing is, I'm only an expert in one fish, like one species of fish, like not even like generally fish. It's just the Cape stump nose that I'm an expert on, because I've done ecological and physiological work on it. But in terms of fish ecology, in terms of a lot of fish, that's not my expertise.
Well, you know what?
Okay.
I'm. Yeah.
Continue.
No, go.
I'm mainly by training a marine ecophysiologist. So, in general, I take marine animals from the wild, throw them in water of varying different safety levels, I suppose, and see how their physiology reacts. That's my main branch of science.
Mind blown. Mind blown. But you're taking animals that have a backbone. You know what I mean?
Not necessarily. Because, for honor, my honors was fish and my PhD was fish. But my undergrad project was on mussels, the Pona. I looked at the effect of varying levels of copper intoxication on mussels. And for my master's, I worked on corals. So I looked at coral bleaching. I looked at how, if you feed the corals, because corals have two ways of getting energy, at least like some hard corals. One of them is that they have this symbiotic relationship. So they are actually like cnidarians, so like little stinging animals, and they live in colonies. But they have this symbiotic relationship with algae called zooxanthellae. And that algae is like a plant. So it's photosynthesized, and it gives energy to the animal part, and in turn the animal part like gives it shelter and nitrogen and stuff like that. But corals can also feed. They're like little jellyfishes, and like jellyfish like trap things and like kind of eat it that way. So I was looking at whether if you are able to feed the corals, so if they have a lot of planktonic food to eat, does that make them more resistant to bleaching? So, if temperatures get too high, then corals, what happens is that the zooxanthellae produce too much stuff, and that stuff is very damaging to the zooxanthellae. It's called free radicals, like reactive oxygen species. So it's a lot of like very damaging oxygen. And then the corals, or the animal part, is like, no, I'm not going to have this. I'm just going to throw you outside. Like, I'm going to throw the whole algae away. So they expel the zooxanthellae, and that's why they turn white, which is not good for them, because they need this symbiotic relationship. So it's not necessarily. I'm an ecophysiologist with a lot of things. It's not necessarily just fish. Although fish is probably the most that I've worked on now at this point.
Yeah, but you are actually an ecophysiologist as the base, not an ichthyologist. So that's and that's wild, because I'm an ecophysiologist as well.
This is true. Yeah.
I'm finding this out now.
Yeah, I think we've had discussions
and it's
about
like, just
that
goes
before,
to show
but
you.
like not a lot. Like I think in passing, we've mentioned it, but we never spoke at length about it, which is why which is why I think you didn't put two and two together. But yeah, as a base, I'm an ecophysiologist.
No. But like now I stand corrected. I knew I would be humbled and embarrassed slightly. And now we have more to talk about because we are actually. I've obviously specialized in invertebrates and climate change stuff with the ecophysiology, and I've done lots of experimental work where you change the conditions to mimic like heat waves, for example, and you have a look at the responses of organisms. But invertebrates, of course, they give you information a lot quicker, which is why I was kind of saying, oh, fish are a tough one to work with because there's so much work and you have to wait so long to get a response. Whereas with invertebrates, you can manipulate things and their turnover of life is so much quicker, so you can do experiments at a faster rate and therefore generate and process more information. So yeah, we we should talk now. I mean, now that I know,
We should talk more often.
So the other thing is, so the other typical day for you, I see you sort of editing, using your laptop to edit audio visual, stuff, right? So I'm thinking that you work, you are contracted perhaps to produce advertisements or clips or maybe social media, like very specifically edited or native content type social media stuff. So a bit of graphic design, I believe, and so that you are a science communicator.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a tool. But I think it's relating mostly to science communication.
Yeah.
And now I just remembered. Yes, science communication. That rings a bell with you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So my company is fairly new, so it's still getting off the ground compared to yours. So that is true what you said. I do get contracted to create videos or parts of videos. So I've done an advertisement for the zoology department at NMU, and I got contracted to write scripts for educational videos. So turning information from like a technical sort of language to a more, I suppose, layman understandable language is part of it. But yes, a science communicator is what I'm aiming to be, at least in the professional sense. And that involves kind of blending in science with social media marketing. So it's not just video or audio visual. That's part of it. Although it started off as a hobby that way, because as a hobby I like to make audio visual things, especially video for YouTube and like home video. Well, start off with home video, I suppose, before YouTube was a thing. And then it was creating videos for myself for fun, and then eventually started doing it in a semi-professional capacity, and now turning into a professional capacity. So I now have training. I have a course that I did with Stellenbosch University in science communication. So I suppose I'm somewhat trained, and I have years of experience creating content for the internet. That's more of a hobby sort of thing, but turning into a professional sort of way. So that is the geekoscopy side of what I do in general. So you basically got it.
Okay. Basically, scraping by over here on the guesswork. But now I'm gonna guess something that I think you don't do, but I also think you should be doing. Actually,
Okay,
my first
right.
guess of things you don't do, right, is voice acting.
Okay, interesting.
I don't think you do voice acting.
Yeah. Well,
right?
I mean,
but maybe you
I
should be doing
voice my
voice
own
acting.
videos, so I suppose. And
Technically, but I
I
mean,
voice a lot of
like
NPCs
as
in
a
Dungeons and
thing.
Dragons, so I suppose.
Now we're going there.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about
That's
it because
true.
I think we did like have this like by the way conversation before, and the thing is like if you like anything that you want to take up new, if you're doing a profession, like doing it like for fun is very different from doing it in a professional sense. As you probably know, starting up like a new business, it's not a it's like you might have the talent for something, but talent doesn't necessarily translate into turning it into a profession without the hard work. So like if you want to be a voice actor, that means you have to like be an actor firstly, because an actor is part of it, and then you need to take acting classes and know something about the theory behind acting. So just making funny voices, even though I can do that sometimes, doesn't necessarily translate to paid work, although it can. And I could do it if I put the time behind it. It is possible. And I've done research about it,
But you don't do
but I
that.
don't do it. Yes, this is true.
Aha.
I'm open to doing it though. If anybody wants to contract me to do voiceover work, I'm happy to do it. I need to put a
think
reel
you're very
together. That's
talented.
the thing. That's the thing I haven't done to actually get it started, like putting a voice reel together, because that's what you actually start.
Yeah, you need a portfolio of sorts, because I mean, you the interesting thing about your so you are a dungeon master, and you organize role playing games, and you, I mean, you it's practical. Um, what kind of acting is it? It's like
Improv, yeah.
Yeah, it's improv. Like, and that, like when you actually run, and you're quite serious about it, because there's a lot of work that goes into organizing
Oh
the
yeah,
Dungeons and
yeah.
Dragons.
It's a
You
part-time
know,
job, yeah.
yeah. It's actually, it's incredible. I mean, we obviously have a whole system that you use, because I know I'm part of it as a player. Um, there's like a system that helps you, structure, the the theater of the imagination.
Yeah, this is true.
um, but it does come down to like improv, and I think it does help. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to doing a sort of improv activity, and whether you do an improv class or whether you're part of the Dungeons and Dragons group, and you get given a scenario and then you have to just be creative on the spot.
It does force you to be creative on the spot.
But I think that we've been shown how if you apply professional skills to D&D, we see how that becomes a success. Like that can be the hallmark of a successful dungeon master, someone who has these skills or talents, to bring into the game.
It's a lot,
if
because it's
anyone
like,
knows anything
for
about
sure, it's for
mainstream D&D,
for one,
it fills stadiums, guys. It fills
yeah,
stadiums.
it can fill stadiums, yeah. Especially referring to Critical Role, is probably the most popular one right now. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of different skills, and especially on the type of dungeon master. For one, it's like project management, because you have to get like a group of adults together every week for like a long period of time. And that's like scheduling, project management, and then organization skills, and like it's creative writing, because it's a fancy story you need to write. I have a lot of audio-visual stuff in mind to bring the audio-visual back into it. You probably notice how new like some of the tech is compared to 3 years ago. It's very different now.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So it's a lot of different skills. That's what I like about Dungeon Master. It's a lot of different skills that you can put together to create something, and then depending on what you like to do otherwise, you can tailor make your game to that. So if you're like an artist, like you can create your own like portraits, or if you like 3D printing, like you can make your own minis. If you like painting, you can like paint minis. If you like building things, you can like make terrain and stuff. So depending on like what you like to do, you can make your own game in the way that only you can make it. So yeah, I think we went to a wide tangent there.
Yeah, I think I think I've got you. I didn't do too badly then
Yeah.
because
It's pretty
I
good.
did guess some of the things
Yeah,
correctly,
yeah.
and I mean I know that you don't sit and do chemistry, as in chemical engineering.
No,
Although you work with water chemistry, so technically you
kind
actually
of,
do.
yeah.
But you know.
It's applied. It's applied. Yeah.
It's applied, yeah, and so it wasn't too bad. I didn't embarrass myself too badly, but it still goes to show that we don't really know each other. For example, as scientists, as professionals, as well as we ought to. So it's always good to ask each other,
I
what do you
suppose.
actually do? Tell
Yeah.
me.
But the thing is, this: how can you keep track of like all the scientists you know and what they do? Though it's and like I said, it's probably because we don't work together much, which is kind of sad, even though we were in the same like lab. But we did such widely different things.
Well, isn't that the point? Because I mean, the skills that you've just listed mean that if we work with you, you could help us to get our portfolios together, make a little introductory video,
Yeah.
and update that. You know what I mean? Like just get it out there so that people actually see maybe what we actually get up to. I think that'll be very interesting, and you've got the skills for that.
For sure. I mean, I did offer to that a while back. We just never got to it. But yeah.
Who has the time
Who has
though?
the time to
It's
do
like
anything? Yeah.
because again, another thing is that I believe you do this as a business, so like you have to have a demand, you have to have funding,
Yeah.
and you have to have time to do it
Yeah.
and we prioritize our time
Yeah.
according to funding as well.
Yeah,
So
for
that
sure.
is that's sometimes the sad
What pays
thing.
the
We'd like to
bills?
do other things,
Yeah.
but we have to do what pays the bills first.
Yeah.
Um,
For sure.
But yeah, we will continue, because now that I know that you're an ecophysiologist and I'm reminded of your training in science communication, maybe that will shift the priorities. Marketing, you said you do marketing. We need marketing. So yeah, that will help us shift the priorities, and it's great to get to know you a bit better.
Long
What do
time
you
friends.
do?
Long time friends.
Long time friends.
Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, maybe you can say you should say the final few words.
Oh, final few words. Oh, did you miss anything? Did I miss anything? Not really. I think we hit the broad context. The other thing that I've kind of done over the past 10 years is actually take existing data and reanalyzing it with new analyses, which is currently what I'm working on now at this moment. So some of the science that I do that has no field work or no lab work, it's just data that exists already that I then go and ask new questions about and then reanalyze. So that's what I'm working on right now. I'm working on looking at the effect of interdecadal scale changes in larval variability along the South African coast. So that's my gig now at the moment. Yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah, if you want to find any of the stuff,
add data analyst,
data analyst
to the
yeah,
pile.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
And wrap it in a nice bow, and you've got Yanas.
Yeah, data analyst for sure. Maybe I should get a data analyst job, because those they're in high demand now. Even though that's something we don't add.
They are in high demand. Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you want to find my regular work, you can probably find me on ResearchGate at Dr. Yanasivan Kisten. I think there's only one of me. And if you want to find my other stuff, it's at geekoscopy.com. If you're looking at the podcast, I'm pointing to my head because it says Geekoscopy. At geekoscopy.com, you'll find all of my science communication stuff. This podcast, which is a science communication thing. So I'm putting it into practice.
Exactly. And on social media as well.
Yeah, for sure. At Geekoscopy on everything except Yahoo and
On
MSN.
all
Yeah,
platforms.
all the platforms that have died, you won't find me on, but all the new ones you will. Yeah, and you can check out this show on YouTube now. There's an account for that. On Twitter at Agulhas Current, because we represent the Agulhas Current now. So we are just at Agulhas Current. And I'm thinking of doing a TikTok, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But right now, yeah, you can find us on the internet at Agulhas Current, at Agulhas Current Affairs, at Geekoscopy, at Argonaut Science as well.
At Argonaut Science as well. And yeah, you can also find Argonaut Science in the webs, in the Googles. And we hope to see you soon. Maybe we can ask, what do you do to another few people? We should have some guests
Yeah.
and try to guess what they do.
Yeah,
That'll be
for
fun.
sure. That would be fun. Some old colleagues try and figure out what they're doing right now. Yeah, so I think it was a fun chat. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thank you. That was really fun.
Cheers.
Cheers.